we've got a guy named Moses. Call him Mo. He finds it's good to dress up like Johnny Depp dressing up like Captain Jack Sparrow, because it lightens his heavy burden. Because he's our Moses. He's spent years in the wilderness after being surrounded by loss of faith amongst society, the people that make up the society that he was in. He's their leader, and he was thinking he was losing faith, and they were losing faith, and he knew he needed to do something. He needed to get away from everybody because their loss of faith was starting to threaten everything, including his own faith. But to a person who truly has faith, it's never a question of whether you have faith or not. It's a question of what you can do now about it. I have faith that doing my best is the best that I can do. It's actually rather straightforward. That's having faith in common sense. You have faith in your own ability to tell the difference between something that's logical. Maybe when you get down deeper into the details, you go, it's not quite as simple as I thought. That's very possible when we're talking about common sense things. And common sense things we can be very misled by the outside appearance of things. And that's when we do use sort of the uncommon sense, the sense that we each have. And by sense, I'm actually taking the fact that we use common sense and we use the word sense to mean something about intelligence. So the common sense that we have has, well, that's, in a sense, that's what comes from our hearts. Our common sense says, it makes sense to me. It makes sense. I do know. Well, but the head is where we're able often to see through some things that the heart might not. Though, vice versa, in our head, we can get all mixed up about things that the heart understands. It's simple. It's simple. If you want to have more love in your life, love more. The last words that the Beatles recorded, or they presented it, that they wanted people to hear. The last words they recorded. So, in other words, the last words of the last album, Abbey Road, which they knew full well was their last album. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. That's too high for me. Remember this? Do 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 do. Listen to the instrumental better than my rendition, but it's beautiful, and that's the end. The end. The final word. Officially by Lennon-McCartney. But I think we understand that it was John Lennon, who had that kind of vision that went beyond the celebrity and material success that the Beatles had. Paul went ahead and just became a mega, business person. And now he's Sir Paul. Sir Paul. Yeah. I actually call people whom I respect Sir. I would never call Paul McCartney Sir Paul, except with quotations around it, because what is it? So, because he was so famous, nothing wrong with him being famous, but because he's famous, because he goes on to write that you'd think the world has had enough of silly love songs. I look around me and I see it isn't so. You'd think the world has had... Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. What's wrong with that? I need to know. Well, sir, quote unquote, Paul, you had to have, and still do have, the potential. You had it, you've blown it, you've not used it at all, but you still even do have the potential. So I'm saying to you, I'm not talking to you about the past, Paul. I'm talking about you now, Sir Paul. Why don't you use the fact that you are one of the most influential voices in the arts world, in period, and say, you know what, kiddies, whom I'm so influential with, I mean, I don't know, maybe it is too late, but I don't know. You are unique in the world. You could talk to young people and you could say, love. Love is all you need. And in the end, and what it all boils down to, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 78-year-olds, the love you take, the love you are able to get from the world is equal to the love you make. What that means is a lot. And there's all sorts of possibility through the medium of song. And now where I could tell you all sorts of things that I've learned in life or that other people have learned in life. And I would like to use my position as sort of the granddaddy of I don't know, what can we call you? You see, because you, Paul, were involved with one of the great, I'm going to say moments. You were part of it. Your great musical talent. And I got a good lecture from somebody. I was saying, between the two of you, Paul and John, I have a lot more respect for John. And he launched into a whole thing about how much better of a musician you are. I mean, just how talented you are. And you are. And I said, the guy I was talking to, I said, I bet you know more about the difference. Because he's a musician. He owns a guitar store in Vika. V is the name of well, it's not actually a town, or city, it's a neighborhood, of a huge city. So it actually has its own kind of, some sort of council, neighborhood council, or I don't know what exactly how it all works. It's very confusing. But anyway, he's got a guitar store there, and he's a good musician, trusted local supplier of guitars. I think he fixes them. He's good at that, So that's his thing. So when he said, "Oh, Paul has got so much more," all these things that he listed them, and I think, you know what? I think you're right. I think Paul McCartney was he's also lived longer, but even he was the musical genius behind the Beatles more than John, but John was he was the one who brought the message. And I think this is what the Beatles were the first mega, I mean, you were mega in a way that was way too much. In fact, that's why you couldn't perform in public anymore. That was when you had, I believe, isn't that when that kind of, what John said got taken up by the right wing to prove that you guys are the devil, because John said we're bigger than Jesus. And what he meant was, Jesus did not have to contend with screaming crowds that would not even let him think. The Beatles you guys wanted to actually, you like making music and you're good at it. So what, shouldn't a concert be about doing something you like to do and you're good at and people listen? Then I think you said, hey, this is crazy. It's crazy. Something wrong. And you were right, because it's the same kind of craziness. used to a much more evil purpose, because you guys were just you were just trying to make music. And it got out of hand. You see, I think that's what it is. You guys really, you're musicians. And you were showing you wanted to be, sure you wanted to make money. Sure you wanted people to listen to you. I don't think any of you thought, well, I know none of you wanted to think, you like to think of the idea of your fellow musician being gunned down because he's John Lennon. I mean, nobody thought that. Nobody wanted that. But much more so, I don't think you guys actually thought that it would be fine to never be able to be seen to play in public without, I mean, we can't even hear your own voices. You didn't, that wasn't what you were after. Something got way away from you. Something, and it's not your fault, it was some huge, it's this thing. And really, it's the same kind of thing that Mao made use of and Hitler made use of. Get the young people to get frenzied. And you guys didn't make the young people frenzied. That it has something to do with Princess Diana dying. And that's another craziness. I'm sad for her. And I'm sad, I think, and that, what's her name? You know, she can't even hang out by a pool in some isolated place, bare-breasted, without having it become a big to-do around the world. I mean, what kind of stupid stuff? Meanwhile, how many people are confident that we are going to have a climate that will allow us to live without major problems? How many people are confident about that? People running things know what they're doing. So, what we're coming on here is something very serious, and that's why I said, look, I'll talk about this stuff.